This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Okay, today we're going to be talking about cities making a comeback. Cities rising back. That's what we're talking about today. You know, it's been a bit. It's been a minute since cities have been cool. The last almost 5 years now, cities have essentially burnt down to the ground, and they've been sitting in its ashes, and people have been ignoring them. They haven't been going to them. The energy has been gone. The businesses were vacant. I mean, there's some videos that you could watch of us in 2020, like at the end of 2020 and throughout 21, where it's just us literally walking in the loop by ourselves. There's nobody there. And like there's one I won't forget, it was like a vlog we did, and it was like an eerie day. It was like all fog, like you couldn't like really see that far, and I'm just walking in the streets and everything is vacant. And like ever since then, like the cities have been kind of down, and I keep telling people, like, since the dawn of humanity, humans have gotten together with humans and created cities. And I'm just not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm going to drink water today, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid that cities will remain out. Like they'll be down for the count. I'm not buying it. I think we as people give off energy, right? And we feed off that energy. And for a lot of people, they love that energy. They thrive off it. They want to be around it. It's naturally in our DNA. Now, hey, do some people want to be farmers and live on a farm and be by themselves and never see people? Sure. There's some people who want a cottage out in the middle of like Vermont and, be in the middle of the wilderness and never be around anybody. Sure. But I think there's a large portion of people that feed off other people. They love the noise. They love the walkability. They love being around other people. They love everything about it. And, you could tell me that I'm wrong. You could tell me that people don't feel that way. But I got to tell you, I see people visiting big cities all the time. People go to New York. I mean, what's really if you think about what's in New York City? What's really there? It's the most visited place in America. It's not like Disney World. It's not like there's this big theme park. People go there because they're attracted to the lights and the energy. They're attracted to the restaurants. They're attracted to, history. They're attracted to just what's there. They're just attracted to because that is America. And when people tell me that it's not going to rise back, I'm not buying it. And that's what I'm talking about today. I think cities are now about to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. And there's a few reasons why. When we look at like why has the market been so bad, right? I get this question all the time. Matt, why is downtown Chicago market so bad? Why is it so cheap, right? So since 2020, I always ask them back, well, why do you think it is? Like, what makes you not want to buy downtown, right? That's what I tell my buyers. Like you said you want to buy on the outskirts because, right, we've been talking about how there's a tale of two cities. The outskirts are overperforming. The downtown markets are underperforming. And I say, what is it that makes you want to buy outskirts, not downtown? And I've taken notes, okay, like a scientist. Now, guys, I got Fs in science. In fact, I had to like drop out of any classes I ever had in school for science because I'm so stupid with it. But like an amateur F student scientist, what I did is I literally took, I didn't take like an actual paper notepad, but I have an Evernote, and I would literally mark why somebody said that they didn't want to buy down there. And what I found, which was wildly interesting, okay, again, remember, F student scientist, I found that there was the three same things that came up every single time. They would tell me it's one of these three reasons, or maybe it'd be all three of them, but one of these three would be the main things that is always mentioned, okay? The first thing, and I call these the three pillars, okay? So that's what I say is like when people say, why is downtown's bad? I said because of the three pillars.
And the three pillars are crime, the sanctuary status, and lack of back to work, WFH, right? Those are the three pillars. And we look at the three pillars and we look at what's been happening in the last even, let's call it, 6 months. The pillars are falling and the world is changing and we are heading back. This is why I think cities are going to rise from the ashes, because like if the three reasons why everybody told me that they won't buy downtown are now changing, will that change the way people look at downtown, right? So let's look at the first one. The number one was crime, right? Because if you don't feel safe in a city, in the downtown areas, that trumps everything, right? If you're too afraid to walk outside your door, that's not what it's going to be. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people I talk from the North Shore was like, well, I don't want to buy like downtown because like my friend's sister's dog scissors best friend's like driver said they went out to dinner and they got mugged at gunpoint and like I don't feel comfortable going to dinner. And like, listen, you've heard that. And there was legitimately people that, their son was maybe mugged and stuff like that. I mean, it happened, I mean, we could sit here and say it didn't happen, it happened. And as much as the media maybe not cover it all or talk about it all, I mean, if you go to CWB.com where they actually report, not like make up stuff. It's not like I call the news and opinion piece a lot of times because they don't like talk about all of it. But if you go to CWB where they actually talk about the actual crime that happens, I mean, it's out there. Now listen, it's a big city. It's a big city. There's always going to be crime. Always. Always. Has it been worse than it was? Yes. Is it as bad as some people make out to be? No. Okay. I think there's a little bit of a blend. Okay. I'm not dramatic here. I live north. I got kids and stuff like that. Like and my office is here. Like I've never once felt to the point where I was nervous to get out of my car in the city. Okay. But I'm saying is that a lot of people had a bad perception on crime. And we also have to look at that for about 3 years during the pandemic, people were too afraid to talk about the crime, right? So we all knew crime went up, but people are scared to talk about it. People are like, the crime is, there's like crime going on down there, but like, I don't want to talk about it. And like, they'll talk behind the doors closed. They're sitting in the room with their friends. They're like looking around and they're like, hey, I hear there's like crime going on downtown. And they're like, and like, you're like, I was like, what? I'm sorry. Like, it's just us in the room. Like you could talk openly, Or like I'd get in a car with clients and like they'd be looking around and then like the doors would be closed and my client be like, look, they would literally be like looking around. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what do you look? I'd be like, what are you looking for? Like, it's just us in the car. And I'm like, hey, I've been seeing on the news that it's like super dangerous down here, And like, hey, we as real estate agents, we can't talk about crime. So what I tell people is like, hey, listen, legally, okay, because I know somebody's out there who's like, hey, Matt, you can't talk about crime. I'm not talking about crime statistics and stuff like that. I'm not telling you not to live somewhere or not live somewhere because of crime. What I'm telling you is that like people were nervous to talk about it and they would constantly ask. It would be like the number one thing we were asked about, but also people were nervous to talk about it. As the world has started to change, people are more open about saying like, hey, I want to feel safe where I live, right? Like I want to be able to go outside my door and like walk the dog and feel safe. And I feel like people should have that feeling of safety anywhere and everywhere, not only in Chicago but the world, right? I'm a pro like people feeling comfortable. Like I'm all about people. I want people to like each other and love each other, and no matter, I don't give a shit what you believe in or what you do. I believe people in general should feel safe and secure. That is my number one thing I always feel. I don't think anybody should be able to take away somebody's happiness, and one of the things that takes away somebody's happiness is fear, right? So I think it's awful that people should ever feel that way anywhere. But in the downtown market specifically, it's had such a negative impact. And now what we're seeing is that people are openly talking against it, right? No matter what side of the political spectrum you sit on, no matter what you believe in life, everybody has kind of come together and said, listen, like we should all feel good about walking outside and going to dinner or walking our dog. And, it always takes things to go one way too far for people to come together. And I think that the noise has gotten so loud. And we've seen it get so loud now, right? Because now we have a new DA. So we have a new district attorney and Eileen Burke, and she's like a normal DA. She's just like, hey, listen, like somebody like kills somebody or rapes somebody or something like that. Like we're not gonna let them back on the streets, right? So like our old DA was like, somebody commits something, murder, like let's let them get out. I mean, there was a great stat that showed like over like 100 people like killed people or something like that like went back out and committed murder again. Like I mean, it's like a wild stat. You have to look at it like. Numbers might be skewed. I'm probably messing this up. I don't have them memorized. But there's like this wild stat of people who committed like felons or murder that like were let out within a day that then committed something else atrocious afterwards. CWB had a report. You can just go on their thing. But she's essentially was like, hey, listen, like people commit crimes. We're going to actually hold them and prosecute them, and make sure this doesn't happen again. And what that's doing is that's breathing confidence back in the city, and in reality is if people don't feel secure in where they live, they're not going to want to buy here. So when people sit here and say, well, that doesn't have that big of a negative impact and you're bleeding about, it's like, okay, you can tell me that it didn't. You could sit here and tell me as much as you want in my face, okay? But as a guy that has sold, I don't know, at least 3,000 places since 2020, and I've had at least, 6,000 or 7,000 people that I've talked to mention that as the number one reason. I'm an F scientist, so I'm not a smart guy. I'm not. But if 7,000 people told me that who have money that are buying and then use that as a reason to not buy in an area, I'm just saying I think it had a negative impact. I'm not sure. Again, F student, I'm a complete moron. Somebody out there is going to make a comment that this guy is an idiot. He went to Eastern Illinois. You're 100% right. I'm telling you right now, I'm an idiot. I'm telling you right now, I went to Eastern Illinois. I agree with you full-heartedly. But what I am telling you also is just the fact that that's had a negative impact. But now, with that pillar falling, due to the fact that we have a new DA, due to the fact that people are feeling more openly to talk about crime and safety again, I think that's going to help turn around downtown, okay? So that's the first pillar has fallen. The second pillar is the sanctuary status. This is a big one. This is a very widely, hot topic. People are very upset about this one. And, it's all in the news, and there's no right way to say it. There's no way, no matter what, if I say good things or bad things about it, you're going to hate me for it. But again, I can only tell you what people have told me, okay? And I can tell you that it had a negative impact on the city. And the reason why it's had a negative impact in the downtown markets, well, first and foremost, it made us broke, okay, right? So we're 800 million or something like that in the hole, and we spent $450 million on it last year that we just don't have the money for, and there's, people in the city that could really use that for education, et cetera. But that's not me. I don't care which way you feel about it. What I can tell you is I'm going to paint you this picture. This is what happened. There's 1,500 migrants staying at the Inn of Chicago. It's a half block off Michigan Avenue. There's 3 buildings right over there. There's 550 St. Clair, there's 240 Illinois, there's 600 Fairbanks, 505 McClurg, 600 Lakeshore, okay? These are big empty nester buildings. What would happen is I'd park in front of that Burrito Beach. Is it Burrito Bowl? What's it called? Burrito? I think it's Burrito Beach. I'm not sure. It's like a building right there. You get out of your car, okay? So I'd be with a couple or, single, whoever, right? And we get out of the car, and we'd have to walk through. You walk through the camp to get to the building. Okay, that's the only way you could do it. You got to walk through the camp. As you're walking through the camp, you have women screaming at you for sexual favors for money. You're stepping over literally children, which is terrible. Again, I'm not saying I agree with this, but I'm saying this is the environment you're in. You're literally stepping over families to enter a building. And then when we get in the building, I always try to make a joke because it's extremely uncomfortable. Okay, for everybody. It's sad. I agree with you. Sad. Not saying I agree with the way this whole thing was treated, but again, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a loser. So then I'm trying to make a joke hey, we should have brought some cash. Just lighten the mood up because it's. I can't describe how uncomfortable it is. It's like you could cut the tension with a knife. It's so uncomfortable. These are people who haven't been downtown, maybe never been to Chicago. And then you walk through this camp and you get in there. And then everybody kind of does a nervous chuckle. And then we get back in the car. We got to go back through the camp. We get in the car. We'll go to a different area, whatever. They'll get in their car. They'll drive back, so the empty nester crowd will drive back, or people will go back to Indiana or Ohio, one of these poor states, whatever, right? And then I'll get the email or text and be like, hey, it was good meeting you. We love the experience, blah, blah. After thinking about it, we decided we don't think Chicago's the place for us, okay? And that's a huge thing that happened. And again, you'd be down Laricy Street, and they were all on the sidewalks for about a year, and you're walking down the sidewalk to get to one of the buildings on Laricy, and you got to walk through the camps, and then people are like, well, I just don't know if this area is for me. And again, people who are going to comment and say, Matt, you're being insensitive. I'm not saying this. We're not commenting on which way I feel about it one way or the other. Let's be clear on that. All I'm telling you is that the people we took through there decided that it wasn't for them due to that, okay? I'll tell you, same story. Went to 550 St. Clair the other day. The Inn of Chicago has been closed. There's nobody there. It's actually a pretty cleaned up area now. Walk in there, show the place, get back in my car. Empty nester couple's like, this is a really nice area. It's, like I heard it was like bad down here, but like this is like really nice. What a difference that makes, right? What a difference. And that is going to change the mentality. And as much as people maybe, are upset one way or the other, what I can tell you is that without money coming into the city doesn't exist. I would love the city. I would love myself just to have endless amounts of cash and not have to do anything for it. But unfortunately, the way life works, the way the economy works, is you need money coming in for it to go out. But if you're only spending money and not having any money coming in, the situation can't work. But the more money that people buy, the more money people have to buy places, that brings in more tax revenue dollars. That tax revenue dollars is then spent on people, what should be spent on people in need, so that they can improve their lives and make the world a better place. Those people who then buy a place go to local establishments to spend money that is then taxed, which then raises more money to then go to the city. When that more money is spent, that means the economy can grow, which means then more retail shops can open up, which gives more people the opportunity to start a business, which gives those people an opportunity to start a life, to have a family and prosper. That is the point of capitalism. That's how it works, okay? But if there's no money coming in and we're only spending money going out, that's how economies collapse, okay? So that's what's been happening. And people haven't been buying, so nobody's been spending money, and that's why all the businesses are closed, okay? But now that pillar has fallen, and we are seeing the confidence in the empty nesters and the out-of-state buyers grow. The third pillar has been the WFH, right? Work from home. Everybody's been saying like working from home is how it's gonna be forever. Again, super controversial. I know whenever I talk about this, I get these like super mean comments at the bottom where they're saying like, you're an idiot, I love working from home, I'm way more efficient and blah, blah, blah. I'm glad you are. I think some people probably are. I think majority of people are not. I've personally had people work from home. They've been terrible. We've had to let them go because every time I ever call them, they're either watching Netflix or doing laundry or taking the dog out. We as people, the average person, I'm not saying, again, somebody out there, you're a special person, great, I'm happy for you. The average person will slack off if they can, okay? So if they can slack off, they'll do it. But if they are being watched a little bit more, they won't. And again, I know people are saying that's not the case. Great. I think you should do whatever you feel most comfortable about. But people working from home has made these offices, become into foreclosure. And that's made no people coming to the city. If there's no people coming to the city, that means the metro line's not working as much, right? So it's not bringing as much money coming into the city. If there's not much money coming in the city because people aren't using the metro line, then people aren't coming downtown, then you can't open up that burger shop down the street. And if you get a burger shop down the street and the people aren't going to a burger shop, then like the little small gift shops and stuff like that have to close down because there's nobody shopping. So again, this is one of the reasons why economies collapse. But as RTO is starting to become the new buzzword, right? Return to office. So we're starting to see more and more people go from 1 day a week to 3 days a week to now 4 days a week. And from what we hear, we're seeing it 5 days a week is making a comeback. Or people, if you want to get promoted, they're saying you got to come back to work. That means that the economy is going to start to strive again, right? Because now if people are using the metro and they're coming downtown and then they're going to work, and as they go to work, they get hungry, right? So then you want to have a burger, so you go have a burger, and then you still got 20 minutes to kill, and you're like, oh, here's a nice little flower shop. I'm gonna get some flowers for my wife when I come home, and now that brings a little bit of money and that boosts the economy, and then State Street comes back, right? Have you been down State Street lately? It's like a zombie wasteland. I mean, like State Street was like one of the most attractive streets in Chicago for since I've been alive. The place is a shithole right now. I mean, it's like you drive. I mean, it's like. Honestly, it's kind of scary. It's like it looks like an I Am Legend movie when you drive down there. It's just like there's just nothing there. It's just like completely dilapidated. All the storefronts are boarded up. It's a wasteland. It's a nothing. And you think about how much you want to talk about like let's help Chicago out. If you're a pro Chicago person, it's like okay, let me tell you something. The most expensive real estate in this state is on State Street, Michigan Avenue. 39% of it's vacant. Okay, 39% of that's vacant. I read a stat once that said like 65% of the sales tax revenue is brought in from like the downtown businesses. Like, okay, that's vacant. And you're telling me that's a good thing for the city? Like, I don't know. Last time I checked, like the way our economy works is just the fact that like if we don't have money coming in and we're only spending money, that's why the deficit continues to grow. But as more people start going back to work, that's going to make the city more attractive, and that's going to make the downtown markets kind of get better again. We also have to kind of look at and take into consideration the fact that we're going to continue to see more and more and more people go back to work. Now, again, as we talked about earlier, when people say, well, people don't like working from offices or working from, like they're all going to work from home from now on. I keep talking about, I was like, okay, well, let's also remember the fact, don't you guys, do you remember WeWork? Remember WeWork? WeWork was like the most highly valued company of all time. They all talked about shared office spaces because everybody just, people want to get out of the house. People want to work. People love the culture of work around other people. That's all they talked about, is that's how it was going to be. And that company's valuation went through the roof. And then now, 5 years later, they say nobody ever wants to work from home. Nobody ever wants to be around other people. Nobody ever wants to. And I'm like, if you believe this, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. But I think the reason why people are fighting on planes more, people are more angry at people, is because we've been like dogs in cages. Like at the end of the day, we're all animals, right? And we have this energy that has. And if you lock an animal in the cage for too long and you let them out of the cage, they're gonna kind of act out. It's just human nature. It's the DNA. People have to realize our DNA has not changed in the past 5 years. It hasn't. People still need to be around other people. But if people are trapped in a cave for too long, they're gonna lash out. And that's essentially what's been happening with this stuff. And a lot of it has to do with people working from a home. And as businesses are starting to force people to go back to work, we're starting to see the resurgence of the downtown market start to come back. And that pillar has now fallen. So you've got your work from home pillar gone, sanctuary gone, and then you have your crime gone. Now again, I'm not saying all three of these are back 100%. I'm not saying that we're seeing this be a complete 180 turnaround. What I'm saying is that we're at the beginning of the collapse, and that as the phoenix is going to rise from the ashes, it will start slow. But I think the momentum is there. And I think when people ask me wow, the suburb market's so hot, wow, the outskirts is so hot, and then at the same time, the downtown market's so dead, it's how long can that last? And there's a book you should read. It's called The Tipping Point. And The Tipping Point talks about little things that happen that then change things that make them take off. And they talk about what's the instances, right? One of the best ones I read in there was about in the 80s that New York was a terrible place, and then Giuliani had the rule of the broken glass effect. And what he did is he's like, hey, listen, if the city looks better, people will treat the city better, right? So he fixed all the glass, he cleaned up all the graffiti, he made the city be look beautiful, and then people looked at the city a different way, carried it differently, and then the city prospered and became the most expensive city in the country, okay? If you think about that and you look at how the three pillars are, this is the tipping point that's going to make the phoenix rise. And I think this is the moment now. This is the beginning moments of it. And the next 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to look back and say, when do you think the city started to make a turnaround? This was the time right now. Last couple of things is just talking about what is the main reason why I think this will happen minus the three pillars. It's I also look at the fact that real estate goes in 5-year cycles, and we're going to do a podcast about the 5-year cycles. But just to touch on it, the fact that Chicago, I think 2020 was the first year of a new cycle, and 2025 is the last year, and you can kind of already see the momentum start to shift a little bit. Now, listen, it's hard to say that the momentum's going to shift in January, February, your two hottest months of the year. And people right now is I'm getting outbid 100,000 over ask price. You are, but let's see how July, August, September, October, and November play, right? Let's see how much places are going 100,000 over list in August, right? Or in September, October. Remember, the year is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right now we're in the sprint part of it. This is the best time. It's hard to say the market will slow down when it's so hot right now, but it will, and it happens every year. But as it slows down, we're going to start seeing kind of chinks in the armor of certain areas. We're already seeing inventory kind of grow a little bit more in certain parts. And we're already seeing more stuff come up than they were years ago. So it's going to be one to kind of watch, especially if you look at nationwide stats of when they're talking about real estate sales were down to the lowest point in X many years and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, some parts of our market are killing it, blah, blah, blah. But if we're looking at a nationwide basis, next year is going to be the new year of a new start of a 5-year cycle. What market was worse than Chicago when we talk about big cities? Downtown San Francisco was. Minus that, we were the second worst. And again, I think both cities have room to grow. If you're at the bottom, you can't go any further down. If you're the worst, okay, it doesn't get any worse than the worst. You're at the bottom of the pack. Now you can only fight to get, climb the ranks. And I think that's kind of where Chicago is right now. Where do I think the downtown market will be in 2 years? I think the downtown market will be back. I think 2 years from now it'll be back. I think it'll be at a place where you're going to start seeing the confidence completely back in cities. Even if you just look at the stats of places under $750,000, we're down to 4.9 months of inventory in that type of area. Okay, that was 12 months a couple years ago. It was 24 months beginning of the pandemic. The numbers showed alone. At the same time, rents are at an all-time high. So if nobody wants to live in the city, why are rents at an all-time high? So I think we are starting to see that kind of scale kind of tipped back. And like now I think we bottomed and now there's light at the end of the tunnel. When do I think that the downtown market would be as good as the burbs? I think it's going to flip in the next 24 months. I think we're going to see it drastically different. You know, the fact that like West Loop is is cheaper than West Town. Again, I've said this last couple of podcasts. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. The fact that somebody's going to buy a place, you know, that's worth $500,000 for $600,000 in West Town, and something that's worth $500,000 in West Loop's going for $400,000. Like, I don't know. Just doesn't make any sense. Like, it makes zero sense to me. I mean, West Loop was named the hottest neighborhood in the country like 5 or 6 years in a row, like, or top 5 at least. Like, in the fact that it's cheaper than West Town right now, like, I mean, I'm not saying West Town's not nice. It's like one of the hottest areas in the city right now, but like, I don't know. Like, West Loop has like some of the hottest restaurants, not only in the city, not only in the country, but in the world, right? Like, you have some of the biggest companies in the world there, and you're going to tell me that like nobody wants to live there? I don't know. I'm just not buying it. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. If cities rise from the ashes, where do I think the price is going to go? Up. Chicago's never going to be a 20, 30% appreciation. I think we're going to be at 1 to 3% appreciation. It'll be slow and steady. Turtle wins the race always, right? But I do think that we are going to start seeing a comeback, and I think specifically we're going to start seeing a big comeback in the high-end markets. So that's all I got for you today. But watch out for these 3 pillars. Watch out to see if cities, start to rise from the ashes. And let's see if this was what we're calling the bottom. And we'll check in on this. We're going to do it 12 months from now. We're going to do it a cities rise from ashes reflection to see if we were right or wrong on this theory. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.